Uh, okay, it's November 17th, 2025. Charles, we were like sitting in these two spaces about a year and 10 days ago. All right. And you and I have both been working our butts off this year, fighting for democracy, and Common Power has been going through a journey.
Yeah.
Um, and I asked you if we could do a conversation because I thought it'd be really useful for you and me to kind of just share a bit of that process.
Explore. Yeah. Explore a little bit. Yeah.
Um, and so this is me kind of asking you some things um, that I know roughly the answers to, but I don't know exactly what you're going to say and how you're going to say it. And I think it's really I'm really looking forward to this. So this what I want to call this is kind of like the year of 2025 for Common Power.
Hmm.
All right, the year of 2025 for Common Power, and it actually starts right after the election last year, but it goes all the way to today. And so this is a year long, and I won't call it reflection. I will call this like the journey, the kind of the pathway, the arc, the arc. That's it, the arc of 2025 for Common Power.
Which starts in
So
2024, right?
exactly, which starts in 2024. So I really see two parts to this. So, kind of setting the agenda here. The first part is reflections and some assessments and decisions that you came to. And then, second is what we'll call implementation or operation of this year. All
Yeah.
right. So, here I'm going to close it now. I'm going to toss it to you. So, I want to say this, and you tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong. This has been a hell of a year in terms of
Yeah.
leadership and the journey of this org.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny because I think it's been a hell of a year for the country. And so it should be a hell of a year for an organization like ours. Yeah, definitely. And one that has been changing. I mean, as much as we've talked about this Trump decade being one where people have to constantly adapt and there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on, this
Yeah.
year, this year, probably more than other years, has been crazier. But for us specifically, yeah, we evolved this year in new ways.
Is today where we're sit today, mid-November 2025, is has the year unfolded from election day last year? Has it unfolded in ways you expected, or has it been surprising to you? I've been surprised in that it's been worse. It's been even
Yeah.
worse than I expected.
Well, yeah, I think we talked about Project 2025 all of last year, and then Elon Musk comes out of nowhere, right, with this speed and Doge, and that was nowhere in the books. Um, that and Donald Trump himself is unrestrained and more craven. Nobody saw the Epstein files coming, and the use of the use of um, the use of the military is, was something that people was like, possible, but not, no one knew exactly what it would feel like. In
Yeah.
addition to that, how we push back is something that I think we could imagine, but not know like we do now, how far we'd have to push, who would have to be the ones pushing, etc. And it was constant learning.
So let's go to like a 2 month window, a 3 month window from the election to the end of January. Take us through that, please.
Yeah, I'm going to share a screen. This is something that has been important for me to do as I look to tell people the story of how we got to where we are and why we made the choices that we made. And it's also not super easy to have this conversation again. It's tough to bring people back to this moment. Uh, on screen here is the Zoom from the day after the election in 2024. And we do this every year. We do a series of Zooms with people ever since COVID, where we go through the election results. And this is one where, these faces represent defeat, a community that is dealing with something that we thought was a pretty certain victory and ended up being the opposite. This emotional place is where I was grounded thinking about what 2025 needs to be. And this moment is important for me because I'm there on the Zoom, and I'm talking to, actually, I'm there on the right side, and on the lower left side of the screen, you see Larcy there, and I'm actually talking to my daughter, who's in the car seat in the background, and they had just gotten back from Arizona, from door knocking in Arizona, from the airport, and they're all sitting in the car, and I'm actually calling in from Pennsylvania, and this is me explaining to her what happened, that we lost the election, that we tried real hard, and that we're going to have to continue to fight because that's what we do. So it was tough. It was a tough conversation, but this is super important for us to acknowledge that this happened, and then to live with that feeling, and then to know that this is how low it was in order for us to figure out a new pathway forward. This is us realizing that all the work that we had done, the narratives of the Democratic Party, what the candidate chose to talk about, how she chose to talk about it, all the races nationally that we thought there were going to be blowouts, the methods that we used to fight, those were all in question at this time. And that was tough. It was real hard.
Let me say that I'm feeling that grief here. I'm feeling it as I look at this, and everybody listening to this, and we hope that everybody will listen to this in the Common Power community. Like, maybe pause the recording for a moment here. Pause it and just recall the terror, the fear, the unbelievable sadness that wasn't just one night. It wasn't just 2 nights.
No. Weeks, months.
There are legacies, vestiges of that for all of us today. It's not like this has gone away. This is part of where we are today. This is like part of the journey.
Yeah. And important, right? You learn more in defeat than you do in victory. And this was a lot of learning for us. And it caused us to question everything that we do, including the core of what we do, which is door knocking, right? People coming out of this election were asking, does door knocking work? Some people were saying outright that it doesn't. Door knocking doesn't work, and so we shouldn't do it anymore, right? We think differently about that now, and we'll get into that later. But this is where we were. Now, I want to go through a couple other things, and then you and I can talk here. But there's some other things that were like very clear findings coming out of this. Right? This is data after the fact, but this is what we faced here. Young people moved to the right. Young men especially moved to the right. Big deal. But it wasn't just a snapshot in time. This was not just a moment where they decided to do that in 2024.
Yeah.
It had been a decline over time. And this is important, and we were going through this before, David, and you said, I think it's important to show this one, and I totally agree. It's so easy to talk about the 2024 presidential election in terms of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and how the campaign was run. But if you look at the data, the decline among these young men, one major block of swing voters, had started in 2020. This is something that has to do with the way that the establishment on the left has run the country, right?
No, wait a second, Charles. It doesn't start in 2020. It goes red in 2020. The decline.
Oh, good point.
The decline comes from at least the early 2010s. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. Yeah, this is the story of the rise of Donald Trump, right? And how
exactly
how is it that he comes to be? How is it that we get Donald Trump? People talk about him now and they understand he's not the cause; he's the symptom. So what was it? This is a sign of that here, where there's a division between college-educated men and working-class men. There's something about the policies put in place. Republicans or Democrats, that have made it so that working class men do not feel like this country is serving them as much anymore. And that has been borne out in the way that they vote. this is a really important slide here where it talks about the more than anything, right? We talked about saving democracy last year. We talked about
Yeah, yeah.
social rights. We talked about all these things, and yet again, a certain subsegment of our country has said that the policies you're putting in place are not making my life better, period. I care about a lot of other stuff. And also the cost to feed my family and put a roof over my head is harder and harder to reach. And then, the political ramifications of that. I understand that the Republicans have major issues, and they've spun out of control into this authoritarian group of people. And also the Democratic Party is not doing a great job. And that has been shown again since before 2024. This is a major issue with the way that we've been doing politics and running campaigns and talking about policies on the left and reaching out to voters on the left. And all of these things are inputs. That first slide of how we felt coming out of 2024 and the realization that we've lost a certain subset of voters, that we haven't listened to them, and that's been since before 2024. And also that the strategies and tactics of the establishment Democratic Party not only lost us 2024, but had been losing salience and relevance with these swing voters, with young people, with working class voters for years and years and years, all drove me to feel differently about how we operate as an organization. And I'll stop share here.
Okay. I want to focus on this window from about the election through. I'm gonna ballpark it March 1st, basically from that window. So these inputs you're talking about here, these data points, these decline of support for Democrats among men, particularly young men, particularly men of color, among young women, that immigrants said, hey, or not just immigrants, I'd say most of America said inflation and the economy matter, which of course we're seeing right now in the biggest way in this country, right? Yep. All of those pieces, you didn't just go to sleep one night and wake up the next day and you're like, I got these 5 points. You went through a journey. It's you go into the
through the wilderness, man.
Okay, right.
I walked into the forest. I just put everything down and just walked into the forest to figure out what the heck happened. Yeah.
And you talked to a lot of people in the forest.
I did. Because I wasn't alone, because a lot of other people were like, what the hell just happened? We have no idea. None of our previous data tell us, show us the way forward. We've got to find new places. We got to go to the places where we lost these people and go to the people that we lost, and it took me to two distinct places. It took me to the South to learn. This is what grounds us, right, in our current work. And it also took me to Washington, D.C., to the inauguration of Donald Trump, to talk to his Trump voters directly and ask them, how did we lose you all?
And one more data point I'll put on there is that, in the middle of that 2024 election, the Democrats switched candidates. Joe Biden stepped away and Kamala Harris stepped in place. Never again are we going to be in that position, okay? No. Where somebody who so clearly should have handed the torch to somebody else was forced to, was required to. Look, we're not accepting that again. The torches need to be passed. All right.
Yeah, and I think in the middle of that too, I think we're also rejecting the idea that a small number of backroom people get to decide who our candidates are. I think that's been the tradition, that it's not really up to the voters, that we arrive at a presidential having chosen our person already. And we now see the value in competition. There were a segment of people that were arguing that we should have had a primary that year. And they were proven maybe that was the right way to go. And not just because we think that there should be more competition, but that our candidates, they get trained through primaries. They actually get better, become better candidates as they talk about their ideas, as they're tested in front of the American people, as we kind of poke holes in their theory and they check and adjust. This is what happens in business all the time. And I don't know why it doesn't apply to politics.
Yeah, Barack Obama was a mediocre candidate in early 2007, and he was sharpened by the sharpest opponent out there, Hillary Clinton at that time, right?
And the Clinton machine.
Exactly. He had to go through all of that. Yep. So we get to the inauguration, and one of the things that we're going to highlight here in a couple of minutes is a documentary that a colleague of ours, Hanson Hossein, made about Common Power. We're going to point people to that because we're doing an event on December 3rd. And it has you talking to Mr. Charles Malden, the civil rights foot soldier hero there. When we get to the middle of middle of January in 2025, and the inauguration is here.
Felt like 2016.
I want to push a little bit here and say, there were a lot of people in the CP community that said, we're looking for some leadership, Charles, at CP. We're looking for some leadership, all right? And it's nice that you're in the wilderness figuring stuff out and taking time, but we need you. We need you, all right? And so where was the first place that you came to realize we needed to show up in a way that was different this year? To me, it seems like the public engagement, the kind of public activity, the public protest, because I saw you make a decision as an org that we were going to show up for those.
Yeah, previous years we had stayed out of protests. And this is an organization that started in all volunteer in 2018 and then hired our first employees in 2019. That's when I left my corporate job.
That was you. That was
started.
you. Yeah.
That was employee number one. That's right. January 2019. COVID starts in 2020 and the Black Lives Matter movement picks up steam. Not starts, but it picks up the most steam. And we choose to release statements, but to not send our people to go and protest. And that was the decision to stay in our lane, right? We had just started. We were not experts in protesting or organizing, and we decided to follow the lead of other organizations and let our people go and, participate. But for us to not say we're going to be a protest organization, this was different because of the massive defeat and how horrible Donald Trump's second term was for the country, and also the inputs that I got in the wilderness, right? So two things. I go to the South and I learned from Charles Malden, documentary you talked about that we're going to talk more about on another one of these. I refocus on the fact that it's not just the destination, it's how you take care of the people along the way.
Okay.
The second one is, I go to a special election in January in Virginia. This is a part that we miss a little bit, but I go to that and I talk to voters. I talk to voters directly. Right. And I realize, one, that door knocking is still important. And two, because it was only a few thousand votes these guys won by, these two special elections in Virginia, and our door knocking made a ton of difference there. And two, that voters are still looking for, people to talk to them and tell them about voting and democracy and everything. The third one was going to talking to these Trump voters in Washington, D.C. and hearing from them ideas that didn't come from, a party ecosystem, that didn't come from an elected official, that came from sources that we didn't touch. It came from the blogosphere and the podcast sphere. These are ideas and phrases that come out of social media and TikTok memes and all this. These are young Black and brown people and white folks, but young people who are voting very differently than the families they came from. And all of that pushed me to understand that in order for us to be relevant communicators about voting and about elections, we had to show up not just when it came time to vote, but when people began to fight for what they believe in, period, across the board. across the entire calendar. And that was the first. It wasn't No Kings at the time. It was the Hands Off rally. It was the Federal Building Fridays. It was the first President's Day, actually, where there's this massive protest up at the Federal Building. And when Doge started to knock down federal workers, and that's when I said, okay, we got to show up for that. If we're going to show up for voters and have them believe us later, we got to show up now.
Okay, I want to stay on this for a second, and then this is going to wrap up our first part of the podcast. Okay, when we do our circles and on fieldwork trips, on learning tour trips, and we have people share reflections, we often give everybody in the circle a prompt and ask you to kind of finish a sentence. Okay, so I want to give you 3 prompts, and I want to ask you to finish each one. Okay, these are things that you just said to me. You've just said them, but I want to hear you say them again with a little bit more. All right, so prompt number 1, and you're going to finish this now. Prompt number 1 is the journey and our people. What? The journey and our people. What?
Are the point. They're the point. The journey and our people are the point. The continuation of the journey and the taking care of our people are the point of all of this. You'll achieve victory if you focus on the journey and the people who are traveling with you, period.
Okay. Number 2, door knocking blank. Door knocking.
Door knocking
for voters.
Yeah. Door knocking is how we win. Door knocking is increasingly the most relevant way to change people's minds, especially as they can't discern what is truth or not online. When they can't tell a video if it's AI generated or not. Did Trump actually say that? Did the elected official who we're trying to get elected actually say those things or do those things? I don't know anymore. I don't know. So how do I tell? Well, someone has to come to my door. More and more relevant over time, door knocking is.
Number 3, Trump voters blank.
Trump voters were Biden voters, were Trump voters, were Obama voters, were the kids at your kitchen table at some point. Yeah, they are all people who we can win back. Well, let me not say all of them. Enough of them are people that we can win back if we see them as human beings who can make different decisions.
Okay. I want to show a clip from a documentary called American Dignity. This is the opening clip, just hoping to whet everybody's interest in this, all right? And we're going to show this on December 3rd on Zoom. So everybody's going to be invited to this, and you and Mr. Charles Malden, the 2 Charles, who are the centerpiece of this documentary, will be together in Atlanta that night when we do that event. I want to show this clip, and then I want to ask you, how hard, this is my closing question for this portion after this, after I show the clip, how hard for you, and was this journey, and then as a leader, like what was that like for you? Okay. This is the opening 30 seconds of this documentary. We're inviting everybody to join us to watch this 20-minute documentary, American Dignity, on December 3rd with us. Can you see that screen, Charles?
Oh, yeah. Crossing the bridge is not just walking up to the apex. It's continuing after. Because when you guys saw, when you crested this apex, when you actually saw what was there, you kept going.
There was no turning around. There was only one way to go, and that was straight.
There you go. Okay. Did you pause though?
No, there was no stopping. We had planned to go to Montgomery.
That's right.
So we had 50 miles left from here.
You didn't actually know that there was a posse on the other side.
We had no idea. It wasn't until we got farther up that we could actually see what was awaiting us.
People are studying the civil rights movement now, and they just want to be Martin Luther King. They just want to be Malcolm X. They want to do exactly what they did. We can't do what we did before and win.
Right there. That's where I'm stopping it. We can't do what we did before and win. That's where I close this opening section. Everybody come watch that with us. Like, because this is not just compelling. This is us. This is us. All right. So how hard was it, Charles, that journey? How hard was it, that leadership? Give us a little bit of the window into Charles here.
I think it's a tough thing when people question the fundamental belief of your organization or the output. You know, we do a lot of things, and also the reason why all the things that we do matter is because we send people to go knock doors. To go in and stay in the cities across America, as John Lewis has said. And so people...
Well, he says that in a 1963 speech in the March on Washington. He says, get in the streets and stay in the streets.
Get in and stay in the streets across America. Yeah. And people had started to question that and question the Democratic Party and question volunteers traveling, you know, and that was tough for me. You know, that was one where I you know, did we do the right thing by putting everybody's energy into this? Should we continue to do this? That was tough. That was tough. And then where do we go from here? Once we decide, okay, we're going to continue to do this, how do we do it? Because if we just do the same thing that we did before, we're fools. And so the way forward was this like nebulous, empty space. And nobody knew. Like, you couldn't Google this or ask ChatGPT how to win the 2025 elections. Nobody knew, and people had lost faith. So I had to changing the frame of what we would normally intake in order to decide how to go forward. It felt very risky. It felt lonely. It felt uncertain and unsteady. And it was a time where I didn't get a lot of, I didn't get a ton of messages from people asking me things or telling me things. Everyone was in the wilderness on their own. And so the only thing that I could lean on to push forward were the principles that built this organization, that drove the civil rights movement, and that I believed in to get through that. And it felt miraculous when we rounded the corner into the new year and there were people there with me and with us, but I had no idea if they would be there or not. So yeah, it was a risk, man.
Yeah, we had a staff retreat in, I think, February. Mm-hmm. Man, we were all hurting. We were all hurting. And I just personally remember we had our reflections there, and I said, the last 6 years have been hard, and I just don't see it not being hard going forward. It's going to be hard. It's just going to be hard. That's the way it is. What I didn't understand at that moment was that it was also going to be different. All right? That it wasn't going to be just hard, because hard is like, okay. But hard and different, now we're like way outside of comfort zones. Like, hard, if you know it, it's like, okay, I do this is what I do. I know how hard it is to make money or work, to run up a hill or whatever. But hard, and like, now I got to learn how to swim, and I've never swam before, or I have to be able to talk walking backwards or doing so. Your conclusion at the end of that opening, the clip in that film, is we had to do things differently. And that means leadership. And that's what we've done at CP ever since this kind of pivot that we made earlier this year. We didn't turn around and walk away from what we've done. We simply decided there needed to be more effective, creative ways to do some of this work.
Yeah.
Right?
And we needed to listen to different people. And we needed to do some things that were uncomfortable, in order to not just like change ourselves, but to push for change outside of the organization as well. that was uncomfortable. It has been an uncomfortable year, man. It has.
Exactly. Beth Cronister, who just has joined us in our development work, she says, there's a comfort zone and then there's the growth zone. Okay.
Yeah.
And so
those are not the same places. Yep.
Not the same places. So you had these great insights coming through the wilderness and bringing us along and listening to lots of people about the journey and the people and the importance of door knocking and the need to listen to Trump voters. What have been the 1, 2, or 3 things that you and we have had to do, that you committed to, that we have done all the way up to today in basically the last 6 to 7 months of our work that have led not everybody to agree with us? All right. Not everybody's agreed with us. And folks, we love you and we appreciate when you tell us that you don't agree with us, because we're here. We're here to talk it through. All right. So what have been the 1, 2, or 3 things where you're like, these things we've done differently and we knew it was going to be a challenge and we've been committed to them?
Yeah, I think that the first one is that we've decided to communicate differently. We this year, we communicated not just to our current internal community, but to voters around the country in a way that we'd never had before. Before this, we were doing education through traditional means, on Zoom, like the way that you've been doing it for years. And we were using our social media to communicate to our volunteers. And we decided we are going to talk to voters. We're going to talk to the people in this country and actually try to change the narrative. And there have been tens of thousands of people that have viewed our content on social media this year. Some of those on single videos. When I say tens of thousands, some people think like this is the aggregate for the year and that's easy. No. I mean, like we have videos where it's been tens of thousands of people watch one video. That is how different our content creation has been this year and how much we've committed to speaking directly to voters. That's one thing. The second thing is that we have chosen to back fighters. And that has been a massive one, because who's going to lead us is still an open question in some people's minds. But what are the qualities of leaders under Trump's second term as he becomes the authoritarian president that he wanted to be in his first term? And who's going to determine the new ways out? Like that's been tough. And then the third thing is that I think this one is a little, it maybe needs more explaining, but we are always on and we're everywhere. We are not just online, we are in the streets. We are organizing every week. We are creating partnerships with national and local organizations. We're present in big races like the one we're about to head to in Tennessee and knock doors in, right? The possible U.S. House race that we can win and flip from red to blue in Tennessee for the U.S. House, right? In December. And then also
or at least get closer. Yes.
Or at least get closer. But I think we have a chance of flipping it. And this is we are there. That is the tip of the spear. That is on the offense in this country. And we're also making whistles. We're making whistle kits so that people can blow these when ICE comes into our communities.
Yeah.
It is high and low, large and small, national and local, and that's something that we haven't been before.
Okay, I want to talk about each of these. CP has chosen to attempt to reach a body of voters that have not been our goal, our target market. Before. We have chosen, this is younger people. This is more men than women. This is maybe more people of color than just kind of white people or just a general mix. But intentionally, these voters, they are Trump voters. Okay, some of them. Yeah. So let me just ask you, why did CP need to do that? Why did CP need to do that? Why not somebody else? Okay, good insight, Charles, but why not somebody else? Why us?
Yeah, why not someone else? Because no one else was doing it. Nobody. Why not? There was a vacuum. There was a complete vacuum and a lack of leadership. And we gave them a shot. I think we tried to see if they would step up and change their messaging, and they didn't. They didn't change their tactics, and so we did.
The they being who? Who's the they?
The establishment Dems, the people who traditionally should, run the country, the people who were elected to show us the way forward. They didn't. Also, business leaders didn't, right?
Yep.
Immediately capitulated. I would say that the nonprofit ecosystem, kind of froze.
Yep.
And so who
University?
else? Universities, law firms.
Yes.
Yeah. Who do we got left? Sports people? I mean, we're starting to dig deep here when we're talking about who should show us the way forward. So we decided to. Why did we decide to? One, because we're an organization that was born in defeat, right? We weren't born when Barack Obama was president. We were born after Donald Trump won. And so we know how to mobilize people during dark times. We're one of the only organizations that knows how to do it in terms of door knocking. The other one is that we are led by and informed by young people, young Black and brown people, who make up most of our staff. And so when we're trying to answer the question of how do we get to these voters, we just ask our people. we literally, there are people in the office with me telling me this is how I think we reach these folks. I think that's the part we haven't said yet in all of this is in this existential journey that feels almost metaphysical, where people are, it's a spiritual walk, and that you're looking at data, and your Common Power has these people in-house. Okay, right after this thing happens, I'm hearing answers on why we think this happened from the young voters who know people who voted for Trump.
Yeah.
Who room with these people, who are related to these people, who hang out with these people, and they're telling me this is exactly why it happened. And so who better than us? I don't know. But we knew that because of our work, because of our national reach, because of our national reputation, because there are people around the country who look to us, we had to do more than just pick the safe route.
Okay. I want to do I want to go through three things here. This is the first one.
Okay. All right.
But I want to not I want to stop on this first one and now fast forward to today. So that's a decision that we made as an org. We now have had a whole bunch of elections. Is this decision paying off?
Yeah. We've had a lot of elections, and every election that we chose to work in the fall, whether it was a Republican versus a Democrat or a Democrat versus a Democrat, we chose the right person. Let's say you don't. Let's say you don't believe in any of our door knocking. Okay, and you just want to bet on who's going to win. You need to listen to Common Power, because we know who's going to win these elections.
I want to go a little bit deeper, though. The voters that we've gotten have been those voters that left,
right,
that moved away.
We won back.
We won them back. Now we got to hold them, but they came back. The Hispanic and Latino vote in a New Jersey and a Virginia and a California off the charts.
Yeah.
There are many districts in California where yes on Prop 50 is getting 80% among Latino voters. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I saw a funny tweet the other day of like, who knew that redistricting was going to be the issue that won back? But so my question to you specifically is, if we went after different voters, are those voters coming back? Are we getting return on that decision?
Yes. We're seeing it. We're seeing it across the country. They are showing up to vote now, and part of it is because of the way we talk to them. Part of it is also because the policies that people have chosen, and part of it is because we've chosen messengers that are relevant to these voters. And they see themselves in politics. They see themselves as having a seat at the table. It is not enough to pander to them or to tell them how to vote. You have to let their views into the tent. And we've done that.
Okay. So if item one of like the CP 2025 next chapter was that we need to communicate in ways we haven't done before to voters we haven't done before intentionally to make it a primary part of our communication mission. We've done it and we believe it's paying off.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the data shows, the data being elections, the best data that this country has.
And the voters, not just the voters, but the people who are watching us and paying attention to our messages, you have data on them being more male and younger and more diverse than previously.
Yeah, and it is. I would say it's astounding. I'm going to show this really quick because it doesn't get any clearer than this. This is our YouTube channel. The light green is female and the dark green is male. 2024 was almost 50-50. 2025, it is 80-20. It is 80% more male. And the demographics that we're reaching before, it was 50% 65 and older in 2024.
That's on the left side right there. That's on
the left side.
Like,
yeah.
As
and
the
now
lines get longer, that gets older people. Yep.
That's right. 50.1% 65 and older in 2024, last year. Now, 65 and up, 55 to 64, 45 to 54, 35 to 44, and dang near 25 to 34, all at around 20%. And we're reaching 18 to 24-year-olds and 13 to 17-year-olds, which we shouldn't even be reaching. But that's who we're reaching now. This is our strategy turned into a result.
Matt, it's a beautiful chart. You've learned a lot from my lectures about how to present data. This is good.
That's good. Sure.
That's really good. That's incredible data right there. Okay, so we made a decision, you led us through it, and it's paying off. Second thing you've said that we needed to do differently is that we needed to back fighters. What are you talking about here? What do you mean?
We needed to back people who, one, didn't do things the way that candidates did things in 2024 and before that, right? So a little less polite, a little less polished, also a little less focus grouped, a lot less focus grouped. Okay, these are people who believe something and then said what they believe. Period.
Yeah.
They lived a life. They have views based on living that life, and they said that what they believed. And that is, it seems straightforward. It seems like it's simple, and yet that is not the way that politicians operate. Typically, they get their personal views get filtered through. And if they've been in office long enough, what they believe is only a reflection of what polls tell them that they should believe. This year, people have taken more risks. Certain leaders have spoken based on their lived experience and the people that they live around, right? Because they're middle class, lower income people, working class folks, blue collar, that are saying things that they believe. And those are the people that this country needs as leaders. I'd go so far as to even put in the camp people who just pay more attention to the tactics that were successful in 2024. Gavin Newsom's a part of that. For all of his faults, his decision to utilize the same tools that the other side is using and to reflect back to them their communication style is something that's more relevant. That's fighting in 2025 politics. And some people are using pre-2024 playbooks. And those people are Chuck Schumer. Okay, just to name them, since I said Gavin Newsom, Chuck Schumer, and unfortunately Jeffries.
So fighters, rather than aren't always the establishment choice. In fact, they're often not. All right. So this decision to back fighters led to us taking steps into Dem versus Dem primaries. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Dem versus Dem elections, because we felt that it was important to back folks who had a chance to win and were fighters. We're bringing along a certain body of folks. Now that is a position that
let me add one more thing though, because it's not just. I think the lesson early on was just kind of style. What is gelled in the fall has been the substance of those fighters, because who they fight for matters too. And this is one where, Gavin Newsom maybe becomes more the establishment, but it's paying attention to the data points that I showed in the beginning, where there is a loss of working class people and younger generations who can't afford to live in the blue cities that everyone on the left talks about and that they want to live in. And so wealth inequality becomes a massive piece of this. And who these elected officials or candidates fight for becomes a massive part of this. And the word affordability rises. And so it's not a catchphrase or a way of communicating. It's, are you fighting for people who have been left behind economically, who have not seen wins with record stock market rises, who don't feel like the policies of the traditional left or the right benefit them? That's the line. I think earlier in the year it was just about style, and I think that the lesson we learned that brought us to 100% wins in the fall as common power electoral wins this fall is that it's substance also, and the type of substance and who you're fighting for matters maybe more.
As we go forward for this organization, coming out of this election, as we go forward into 2026, where it's going to be midterms all the time. That's our focus, the midterms. Are we going to be following this model of engaging
100%.
And picking fighters? And what's going to be the criteria when will you make those calls? How will you make those decisions?
I mean, we're making them right now. So we're putting them through a series of filters right now that first analyze their policies. Do they have populist economic policies that fight for the people that I just talked about? Do they have breakthrough communications? Are they communicating using the modern tools of the day? Are they communicating in a style that is relevant to regular people? Are they going physically to the places where their constituents are and talking to them and then showing us that they're doing that? Do they have grassroots organizing behind them? Is it just a bunch of paid canvassers, or do they have a bunch of community orgs that are behind them? Have they built a coalition, not just of people who agree with them strongly, but also more and more people who disagree with them actually, and can come behind them because they represent reaching across a traditional political divide? These are the things that we're looking at now. And what happens is that these candidates, these new fighters, they actually transcend traditional political divides, left and right, blue and red. The candidates you see rising in relevance now are really speaking to people who voted for both Joe Biden and Donald Trump in previous elections, who have swung. And that's because they're hitting this relevant mark of wealth inequality and affordability in this country that speaks to everybody.
So has Common Power gotten more liberal or not in the kind of candidates we work for? What is that new for us or not?
Have we gotten more? No, I don't think we've gotten more liberal. I think we found the true middle. I think we found the people who can actually work across the aisle, not because they say they will or because they're following some old political rules, but because they're actually building a coalition that goes from, Zoran Mamdani to Abigail Spanberger. That's the new coalition on the left, and it's who these fighters are. If you can bridge that, then you can be something in 2026.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I love that big tent mindset that everybody's welcome here as long as you are trying to reach the voters that we've got to get to. You got to get to those voters because they represent America and kind of the diversity that we are.
Yeah.
It's younger and old. It's older and younger. It's wealthy and the lower income, right? It's highly educated and also non-college educated folks. Whether we like it or not, Trump crossed some lines. He did that were effective.
Yeah, and I think that it's the widening of the tent that was the case we were trying to make. I think there was a thought that because Trump won, the party needed to take our window and move it more to the right and become more moderate. And the case that Common Power made was that we actually needed to be wider and let in more of what people saw as, as further left ideas. But it is the expanding of who the party is, not the moving of this, very slim window from left to right. It was, we need to include more voices that feel risky to establishment and moderate voters.
Okay. The last thing that you've said that I want to probe on is, you said always on and everywhere. Okay, always on and everywhere. And I think the easy way to think about that is we're supporting protests as well as doing education. We're building up younger leaders while also our core veterans. We need you, right? But you also said national and local. All right, So we made a decision to engage and put our finger on the scale in Seattle for 2 elections, for the King County Executive and for the mayor. And let's just talk about the mayor election, okay? We made a decision to do that. And an awful lot of people have been like, that's great, we're with you, CP, whatever you think. But there have been a chunk of folks that have voiced their disagreement with us. So why did we do that? And what's your takeaway from that today?
The biggest reason why we did it is because the election in Seattle is just as relevant to me as the election in New York. The expansion of the tent to ideas that, in my mind, better serve working class people, younger people in these blue cities, blue states, was made possible because of these 2 candidates on these coasts and the people that they spoke to, that they galvanized, and the issues that they made possible. So the reason why we had to get involved in the mayoral election is the same reason why we had to get involved in the New York one. The same reason why we had to back Katie Wilson is the same reason why we had to support Zoran Mamdani, period. Because and the same reason why we decided to change our YouTube content, and the same reason why we bring young people into the organization to help lead it, not to follow, not to have a youth arm of our organization, but to make decisions here, is because we actually believe in the big tent. We believe in it. And if we were to let things move forward as they were moving before, the electorate, the community, all of this stuff would have just been the people who can afford to participate in elections and give their free time. And that would have been older and whiter voters. And that's not all we need to win. We need more young people, more people of color to be a part of our work and the broader coalition on the left and the Democratic Party. So it's all connected to me. It was never just about getting involved in local elections. It was about us realizing how important this election was to the national dialogue about how we push back against Trump and how we win back these voters. And so it felt very clear to me. It was not something that was a roll of the dice or a casual decision or something that we felt was kind of take it or leave it. It felt like we had to do it.
Going forward, is Common Power going to focus mostly on national elections or mostly on local elections?
Going forward, we're going to do what we did this year, which is focus on national. As much as people are maybe emotionally connected to our involvement in this local election, we spent the vast majority of our resources, and I mean like 99% of our resources, on national. We showed up and knocked on doors in every single U.S. House race in 2025. Common Power sent people, human beings, from boomers to Gen Zers and everybody in between, hundreds of them, to knock on doors in every single U.S. House race in 2025. And I mean from the blue district in Texas to the reddest red district in Florida. We were there knocking on doors, and we're going to be there in Tennessee. We are probably the most nationally focused organization that sends people anywhere in this country. So we're going to continue to be who we are. And we were in Wisconsin to whoop Elon Musk's ass and to kick him out of politics and out of relevance in national politics. And we're everywhere. We're in Virginia to completely take control of that state in 4 cities where we had 40 Gen Zers on the ground knocking on doors. Where we got this young lady right here elected, Willie Franklin, by 800 votes for a seat in their state legislature. Is Common Power going to be local or national? We're going to continue to be who we were. We have always been national, and we're going to continue to be that next year.
In Virginia, we elected Ghazala Hashmi, the first Muslim female to be elected to a statewide office in any state in American history.
Yeah.
All right. In American history. All right. I think the election in Virginia that started this year, that is part of the documentary. You talk about going to Virginia and talking to the voters there.
Yeah.
And the elections in Virginia that ended this year, and the Tennessee one that we're in right now, they paint a story. They paint a story of a new inclusive Democratic Party that is more big tent than it has been, and is also more creative than it has been. All right, more creative. And it seems to me that Common Power both embodies that and also makes me really proud. Makes me really proud, man, to be this. Like, as hard as some of these journeys, this learning and process has been, and as terrible as the damage that Trump and MAGA are doing to this country, like, I like this America we're working on right here. I like this.
Yeah. I mean, this is one of the things that Trump's second term has created is a lot of need. A lot of people who need help, a lot of people who need ideas and leadership, and necessity is the mother of invention. And we decided that we are going to invent some new things this year, and we did. And it was uncomfortable for some, but what we got from that was a lot of winning, and a better understanding of what it takes to win in this country. And that is going to serve us well in 2026.
So what if you want to leave one message with people here as we close up this conversation, and as we close up this year, and as we're in Tennessee and we do our Foundations Learning Tour that we always do in early December, of a group of volunteers and supporters and staff and young people and older people and American hero, civil rights leader Charles Malden, as we do this journey, what's your statement to us? What's your message to us, the CP community, right now?
Is to be comfortable in discomfort, to challenge yourselves, and to lean into each other, even if we disagree. I think that one of the most challenging things that we have in front of us, and I said this on May Day, actually, at one of the rallies that we were a part of here in Seattle. The true test is not whether or not we can win elections or come up with good messaging or whatever, or find good candidates. The true test is, can you work alongside somebody who you fundamentally disagree with? Can you build coalition with a Trump voter? Can you work alongside them and get out the vote? Because that's what it's going to take to win. You're going to have to work alongside people who you have fundamental disagreements with. Dan Osborne in Nebraska is saying he's down for building the wall.
Right.
Marie Glusenkamp-Perez thinks that we need to have voter IDs and stuff, and there may be some voter fraud. There are things that she voted for this year, and she's in Washington State, that I fundamentally disagree with. And there are people that support her that probably don't want some of my staff in this country. And also, I need her to win that seat again. And I need Dan Osborne to win his. And I need a bunch of voters. I need Graham Plattner, who probably has a Nazi tattoo on his chest, to win his seat. And I need everyone to be okay with the Graham Plattners of the world, because Graham Plattner represents all those voters who we lost last year. And they are looking at him as a sign of if they're welcome back into our tent. And if we say no to people like him, and if we say no to the MAGA voters that we have disagreements with, and we run the same litmus tests that we ran last year, we will lose again. And we cannot lose. So figure out what you got to find inside yourself so that you can actually be in the coalition that you talk about in this country.
The common.
The common power. If you can figure out how you find common power with these people so that we can win, that's the test leaving this year.
Fucking it's personally, I'm like, the power. You're like, power. Of course, we need power. People need power. But you're like, damn, common power? Damn, common power. All right? Like there's an ethical commitment in those words that we, like, this is who we are. This is who you are, man. This is who we are, and this is what has made this organization us from the beginning. Yeah, living it out can be hard, but that is how you find democracy.
That's right.
All right?
Yeah.
That's how you get there.
And I would argue that if it's not hard, then you're not doing it right. That's what I would argue. I think we've been too comfortable. And it's tough to say, but it's clear. And one of the things that told me that we were on the right path this year was that it felt controversial and it felt uncomfortable. And that's when we innovate the most. So if you want to win next year, get uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. In fact, get 100% comfortable with 70% certainty. Right, David? Hey, here we go. There it is right there.
Charles, that's an oldie but goodie right there. All right?
Classic, man. It's a classic. It's a classic.
What is it again? Say it to us, because there are people listening to this and may have never heard it, man.
I need you to be 100% comfortable with 70% certainty. And it's not about finding the 70% or debating how much certainty you need. It's about being okay with not having full certainty. And letting the people around you, the people in the coalition and the environment around you fill in that uncertainty. And making your peace with that is how you make it through these tough times. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have an answer for everything. And you also need to make room for other people to have a seat at the table and to fill in the 100%. And that's what we did this fall. We made room for a lot of people in Mississippi and Georgia and places that weren't even having elections to tell the story of who we are as a country. And that's why we won.
Yeah. All right, man. This is really helpful for kind of like hearing you talk about things and also the reflections of ours here about common power. Uh, there was this moment in the 1950s when Edward R. Murrow, this great journalist, is criticizing Joseph McCarthy. And he's doing these stories about Joseph McCarthy and his horrible right-wing anti-communism, anti-gay pieces that he was doing. And the owner of Murrow's TV station program was this guy, William Paley. And Paley owned CBS. And Paley was like, you're going to kill us, man. You're going to destroy our organization, to McCarthy. If you do, and I said it to Murrow, if you keep going after McCarthy, you're going to destroy us. And Murrow said, if I don't keep going after McCarthy, he's going to destroy us. All right. And at the end, Paley says to Murrow, I was with you yesterday. I'm with you today. And I'm going to be with you tomorrow. That's who we are, man. We want everybody to be with us. We're not going to get it always right, but we are going to fight for the core principles that we believe embody common power in America. And I appreciate your leadership, Charles. I appreciate you going into the wilderness, man. Okay? I appreciate that journey because we're not in the wilderness. No, not today.
No.
We're not. Not at
we're
all.
Not, man. No. It feels clear. It feels very clear right now. It feels good.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, man.
All right. Let's go.
Let's go, everybody.